Hello everyone, this is Itay here, your guide in Israel, and today we are visiting the Davidson Center, the Southern Wall excavation area. And what we're looking at here is one of the most exciting archaeological sites, archaeological excavation found in Jerusalem. So what are we looking at here? This area was the downtown of Jerusalem during the Second Temple period. This is where all the pilgrims that used to come in those days to the temple would come to do their shopping, to prepare before getting to the climax of their visit to Jerusalem, which was of course the visit to the temple. And these rocks that I'm walking on now are the same rocks that those pilgrims used to walk on back then 2,000 years ago. Among those people, Jesus and the apostles as well. It's amazing that they look in such a good shape as if they were carved maybe a few years ago, and that's because first of all it's limestone, and limestone is a very, very durable rock. The pyramids are made of limestone, and second of all, this whole area was covered up until mainly the 1970s when the excavation started here, and you can see up there how high the dirt gets to. This is how the wall as well was covered up, most of it under the ground for centuries upon centuries. So we are now at the southern western part of the Temple Mount. The wall of the Temple Mount was higher back then. It's a part of the western wall that in total was at a length of about 1,500 feet. The southern wall and the northern wall were about half the size of it. So the Temple Mount itself was at the size of around 20 football fields. And that pile of rocks that we're looking at over here, all those rocks used to be up there as a part of the wall. And they were pushed down, not spontaneously falling, but pushed down by Roman soldiers after the destruction of the Second Temple. People have this idea or this image that when the temple was destroyed, someone threw a match and the temple burned, and that was it. While in reality, it was a very hard work. The temple itself was at a height of 50 meters, around 150 feet tall, hard limestone building with rocks that the smallest of them weighed 2.5 tons. The largest rock that was found weighed nearly 600 tons. So it's not just something that falls down spontaneously. Roman soldiers were working here for a long time to destroy the temple. And over here, for example, you see those holes inside the rocks. They were carved by the Roman soldiers to put a stick inside and push the stone down to make it fall. So every year in the Jewish calendar, in the date of the 9th of the month of Av, people are fasting and mourning for the destruction of the temple. And the best image you can see in Jerusalem for the physical destruction of the temple is, among other places, this pile of rocks that is over here. They were pushed down by the Roman soldiers, and they're lying down here ever since. So this was a shopping area. There were shops here, there were stands, mainly selling new clothing, offerings to give at the temple. Just think about it. If you are a Jewish pilgrim coming back then over here and you were just traveling just to get from the Galilee, which was relatively close, took around 5 days riding on a donkey. And you can see the hatches here on the wall that were probably shops that were used back then. Just to get from the Galilee took around 5 days journey. So imagine you come here walking for at least 5 days, and some came from much further places, and you want maybe a new pair of clothes, something beautiful to wear when you finally are going up to the temple. And this is where they would come to get that clothing. Also, many mikvehs were found here, purifying baths that when people came, they had to purify, they had to go to the water as a purifying agent, water that were never carried as it is until today in a kosher mikveh. Could also be a river, could also be a spring, and actually not very far from here. And back then, if we would have continued to walk here, there was a giant staircase that would take us all the way down to the pool of Siloam that where you could go and dip in the spring water of the Siloam spring, the spring that is a source of Jerusalem, the reason for people to live here in the first place. And this place back then were very busy, bustling with people. Up there over us you can see a few rocks that are coming out of the wall. And these were the beginning of a giant arch that was called the Robinson's Arch. I mean, it is called today, named after the archaeologist who recognized that. It was a giant arch that was going over the street and coming down to the line of shops that is today in the street level where we've just been. This was the entranceway to a giant building that was up there right near the temple that was called the Royal Portico. The Royal Portico was built by King Herod as a place that he could do different events, as a marketplace, as a place where Herod would have the last word, since at the temple the priests would eventually decide what will happen and how it will happen. It is probably at the Royal Portico where Jesus, when he's going up to the temple and he sees money changers and sellers having a marketplace so close to the temple, and gets very upset about it, and then he's going to those carts, flips them, throws them upside down, and saying that in such a holy place business should not take place. Among the other things that they would do was also money changers, and that is because when people came here they needed to buy the half-shekel coin, which was the yearly tax that was given and paid for by Jews from all over the world to support the work of the temple. Over here we can see a very interesting stone that was found here, and that stone you can see is a cornerstone. There is one edge and the other, and right there in the corner. And over here a little hatch in the stone was created for someone to stand here. And what would he do here? So we even found a writing right near the hatch, and it's right over here. I don't know if the camera can see it, but what it says, and that is by the way a replica, the original one is too important to just be outside here. What it says is Lebet Hatki'a Leha, and it is amazing because it's the same alphabet that in Israel we use today for Hebrew. It says Lebet Hatki'a, to the house of the blowing, Leha, to the, and the rest is not found. It's a piece that was broken, and the estimation is that probably it says to the house of the blowing, to the holidays, to the events, or maybe to God. And this is where probably the player of a big trumpet or maybe a shofar would stand here, and it was like the cuckoo clock of the people of Jerusalem, and would let everyone know when Shabbat comes in, when a holiday starts, when a holiday ends. And this, of course, has a very big importance in the Jewish calendar, as if you are an observant Jew, you need to know exactly when Shabbat comes in, when Shabbat is leaving, because you need to know when you cannot light fire, when you can light the fire again, when you can work or when you cannot. And back then it was maybe a bit more simple than it is today, with not so much electricity devices walking around, but this is how they did it. We are coming now closer to the walls of the western and the southern wall. This is right the meeting point between the western wall and the southern wall. And I want you to look at the amazing, amazing level of construction that is here. You can even see the little holes in the stone, as if you can see the person that did it 2,000 years ago just yesterday standing here with a hammer and a chisel carving through this rock. Herod was very known for his perfectly well done, all the way to the details work. Between each stone, each level of stones and the next one above it, there is about half an inch that the stones are going inside. It is probably to make you a comfortable feeling when you're standing underneath such a high rock, that you won't feel as if it's falling down on you. And inside each rock there is another square that is carved inside the square of the rock to make it more beautiful. And just have a look on this giant rock that is over here, which starts over here. And let's count my steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 steps. 13 steps, so it's almost 7 meters of hard limestone. And we are not on the bedrock. The actual bedrock is about 25 feet underneath our legs, and they lifted this rock up here. How did they do it? There are different estimations about the tools that they used, but still it doesn't make much sense, and it's still a mystery how they lifted such heavy rocks 2,000 years ago to such heights. Is nothing less than amazing. We are leaving now the Herodian Street, and we are going a bit higher. And basically when we go higher, it means that we're going to a later stage in history. And we see here on the side another wall that was built here. And when we look at the stones, we can see that many of them has the square that we just mentioned, the Herodian square, inside the rock, but many others don't. So it's as if someone took many of the rocks that were destroyed when the Romans destroyed the temple and put it here with other rocks that were collected. And this someone were the Umayyan Empire in the early Muslim period that made this place into the center of the government. And there were a few palaces here, and when you see where you see the square, the shade in front of us, was one of the main Umayyan palaces and government centers. Originally there was a big square around us that was all built up. With time most of it was destroyed, and we can see parts of the walls. And here where we have the shade, we had the inner yard of the palace in the office area, and it was very, very impressive. Back then, of course, Jerusalem was already sanctified to Islam as the third holiest place after Mecca and Medina in the Muslim tradition. This is a place from which Muhammad went up to the seventh heaven and received the foundation of Islam, especially in the Muslims' obligations to pray 5 times a day. So we are now crossing another wall that was built later on. This is a part of the Ottoman wall built by Suleiman the Magnificent. We saw no reason to continue to go around the city, and this is where it connects the outer wall to the walls of the Temple Mount. And we are now getting to one of the most exciting places in Jerusalem, especially in everything that has to do with the temple. And what is here in front of us are the very famous Hulda stairs, or the Hulda staircase. Hulda, the prophet, is believed to be buried somewhere around here. Her tomb wasn't found, so we can see it as a tradition. And up on the Hulda staircase there were 2 gates. One was over there. You can see the 3 arches, and this is where people would go inside the temple. And one is over here where you see that half arch, and this is where people would go out from the temple. So in the time of the Great Pilgrimage, and the estimations are that up to 1.5 million people came in which one of those holidays. All those hundreds of thousands of people, after buying a new set of beautiful clothes, after bringing an offering, maybe a dove, a pigeon, a lamb, depending on the budget and the place of each person, after paying the half shekel coin, they would come here, go to those gates over there, and go up to the temple mount platform where they would both circle the Temple Mount and go inside each one of the yards that are around the temple. Outside the temple was an area for men, an area for women. Also there was an area where non-Jews could walk around freely. And coming here to this staircase has been maybe the most exciting moment of years of dreaming about coming to the Temple Mount, coming to the temple itself. So when those pilgrims would go up this staircase, they were very, very thrilled about it. And when this staircase was excavated, they found that each stair is in a different size. Some are very narrow, some are very wide. And maybe the idea behind it was that at this moment that you finally came here and you're going to the top, to the most important moment of your visit, you want to be very conscious. You want to give respect to this moment, and you walk slowly, you bow your head down. You're conscious of each step as you're getting to the temple. And here in the corner there is something that I like a lot. When Meir Bendov, the archaeologist who excavated here, guided around here Neil Armstrong, the first man to walk on the moon, Neil asked him if he can bring him to a place where Jesus walked, and he brought him here to this staircase and to this rock. And he told him, all the pilgrims that walked out from the temple walked through this gate, walked here on this rock maybe, and another one that was near it. And for sure Jesus at some point walked here on this staircase, walked on this rock. And Neil said, you know what, I'm more thrilled here than I was up on the moon. It's nice. It's a beautiful story. And you can see that this place is also so close to the Mount of Olives. How come the Mount of Olives, which was always outside of the city itself, became so important, especially in Christianity? So when Jesus comes here in the Holy Week, it's a week of Passover, and there are hundreds of thousands of pilgrims coming to Jerusalem, and of course there is no place for everyone to stay within the city. So Jesus and the apostles are staying up there on the Mount of Olives. I like to visualize it as a giant Jewish spiritual Woodstock festival with hundreds of thousands of people camping on the mountains all around the city, waking up in the morning, coming to visit the temple, and walking back in the evening for the places where they stay. And this is how it was with Jesus and the apostles as well. So we can see up there the Mount of Olives, the Jewish cemetery, and on the part that we don't see, right beyond the wall there on the left, there are also the line of churches commemorating the different events from the life of Jesus that take place on the Mount of Olives. Among them, the entrance to Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, the ascension up to the heavens after the resurrection, the prediction on the destruction of the temple, and of course Gethsemane, where Jesus is eventually being caught and taken to imprisonment. Down here there is an area that is called the Ophel. Many excavations took place here, and many interesting things were found in this area. Among some of them is a stamp, an original stamp of King Hezekiah, a little golden bell that was probably a part of the clothing of the high priest in the temple in Jerusalem from the times of the Second Temple. And excavations keep on taking place here all the time, and every once in a while there is also a very interesting findings that they find here. And down here you can see another interesting thing, which is one of the many mikvehs that were found here. So I mentioned before that when all those pilgrims came here, they wanted to dip in the mikveh, and they used to come to this place and many others, and you can see that there is a staircase going down into the little pool that is over there. Usually you find that in mikvehs there are 7 stairs, and there is a wall also in the middle, and people who just came, they came down from other side, dipped in the water and came out from the other side. And the idea of the wall was to make sure that the people who are clean won't touch the people who are unclean, to help them to keep the purity of the bath. And we can also see down there a mill, a little flour mill that was found here. The interesting thing is that it's made from basil, from volcanic rock, and the closest place where you can find a lot of them is in the Golan Heights in the north of Israel. So they brought them all the way here, not so much because it was easy and accessible. It was a long journey to do such a thing, but the volcanic rock is very, very hard and very, very durable, and that's why it was very good for the job. And in front of us we can see an interesting rock, one of the rocks on the wall here. And this rock has a decoration right in the middle of it. And that is because it used to be a burial coffin originally. And at some point someone saw that very, very nice sarcophagus and said, hey, actually you can make a pretty nice rock in the wall here. And they took it and put it here in the wall. And that's how sometime archaeological pieces in Jerusalem, ancient rock, also has 7 lives. And we're back to the Umayyan Palace. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please support it by subscribing and tune in for more. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in Israel.